participation. They are in the process. They should have been brought to the floor to be processed. That was way before Kimunya came into office, for those who want to talk about it. I wish Duara was here to tell us why is it that the House Business Committee never prioritized them. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Akoth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And Mr. Speaker, I want to thank Honorable Duale for raising this issue. Mr. Speaker, let me start by saying that I very respectfully and honorably disagree with the courts, especially on the issue of the basic structure. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that just the way the country has given us this opportunity to legislate as members of parliament, we have also given honorable men and women the opportunity to serve us in the judiciary. And when they sit in that position, they sit as a few honorable men and who will give their views, which may differ from our views. And I speak with authority, Mr. Speaker, as also a lawyer. And as a lawyer, I can say I can disagree with them respectfully. That does not mean I disrespect the judiciary. Mr. Speaker, I listened to Honorable Mbadi on my way here, and I want to agree with him that any arm of the government can actually be autocratic. And we must always guard and ensure that none of them goes way above what the powers that they have been given in the Constitution. You should not go against your powers. The president can't go against his powers. Neither can the judiciary, Mr. Speaker. And I think when the judiciary goes against their powers, there are people who want us to walk stealthily around them like they are sacrosanct, they are God. The only person I do not challenge is God. When I agree with the judiciary, I speak very clearly because they are not God. Even when I disagreed with the president, I say very clearly because it's not God. And if I disagree with you, Mr. Speaker, I will say clearly because you are not God. The only person I may disagree with, but I will not say, is God. And Mr. Speaker, I want to say, yes, I may disagree with God, but I may disagree, but I will not say because it's God. Mr. Speaker, I want to say the reason I do not agree with the basic structure concept is, Mr. Speaker, I know that I was a litigator on the issue of public interest law or public impact litigation, what you call the lacunas or the lacunas of law, generally, Mr. Speaker. But this applies when there is no provision in law. When there is clear provision in the Constitution about the way we need to go, then we can't operate as though we are working in a vacuum. There are very clear provisions. But assuming even the basic concept principle was correct, Mr. Speaker, that the Constitution has a structure that we must adhere to, then in international law, it is already stated, Mr. Speaker, and our Constitution in Article 2.5 already provides that the Constitution of Kenya will accept every principle of international law. And Mr. Speaker, one of those principles is actually what is called the jus cogens principle, Mr. Speaker. And in jus cogens principle, Mr. Speaker, it provides that no country shall provide for standards or shall provide a law or shall legislate a law that goes against certain standards. And Mr. Speaker, those standards include issues of self-determination, issues against torture, Mr. Speaker. But what the court is saying does not include this, Mr. Speaker. And we don't even need the judiciary to go that way, because those jus cogens principles raise what we call erga omnes obligations, which are obligations that will emanate from every country against Kenya if we were to make those decisions. Mr. Speaker, I think this is a very dangerous path, especially for minorities. Mr. Speaker, as you are making this decision, I know that
Mambo ya BBI iko kotini na iko sasa inaenda Supreme Court. Tuwape nafasi kwa kisheria. Tuna mambo nyeti tunataka kuangalia, mambo matatu. Jambo moja, kuna shida kubwa sana kwa sababu ya ugonjwa wa COVID. Hiyo ni mambo ya muhimu katika hii bunge tulikuwa tukifikiria. Tunasema kuleta katiba mpya wakati watu wanakufa. Tunaletea nani? Na watu wana hiyo mbele yetu, uamuzi wa Supreme Court na uamuzi wako utupe direction, tujue ni mambo gani tunahitaji kufanya. Lakini tuna mikakati ya mambo ya muhimu ya kuweza kusaidia nchi yetu. Watu yetu wako kwa shida, iko njaa, ng'ombe zinakufa, hatuko tayari kwa chochote, tunawasindikisha kwa mambo yale sio ya muhimu kwao. Mambo nyeti iangaliwe, Bwana Speaker. Nashukuru sana.
Well, I think now finally, because we may be veering off from the issue raised by the Honorable Duale, let me hear the member from Diwa, and then we close, because you know, some of them it's not exactly. Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my own worry in this is that the process of public participation or popular initiative was challenged. But those who were challenging and defending the High Court did not even do public participation. They were just lawyers. And the issue of Wanjiku have been abused to the core. The second point is, can we have 7 judges replacing the Constitution by legislation? Especially when it touches the basic structure doctrine. Which which I think is foreign. We need your ruling on that. Number three, Mr. Speaker, I listened to the 10 hours deliberation. You to talk enthusiastically like you do when it is on Court of Appeal. Otherwise, you are ruling.
Appeal, so that indeed for purposes of convenience and even to appreciate where we are at. So it was not about, it's just the place of those bills relative to that judgment, and also whether the House should continue and the committees should continue considering those bills and legislative proposals as the case may be, depending on which is where. Indeed, one was by the Honorable Florence Mutua, which I think the House was debating just the other day before we went to recess. This is about the 2/3. And another one about the one by Honorable Sholei, the one that seeks to increase the number of women. Is it 136? I don't know. So maybe some of you who came late may have gotten carried away thinking that that's part of the basic structure of this question, or the issue he raised. But it is, in terms of in relation to the ruling, the judgment of the court, where do we stand? Can we as a House proceed, continue with those bills, or do we stop and await further guidance? I think we'll be making, and it was important that I was able to hear many ideas, including some which may not have been very useful. But of course, today being a special sitting day, they say ngumzo mtaani in Swahili, part of it, because it's not going to be helpful in making that determination. So, honourable members, I doubt that so please, with regard to this issue of what was raised by the Honourable Duale, I think let's just rest it at that point. I think, and that's why I was
issue because I am aware that currently the Committee on in many of your considered rulings before. And in particular, Speaker, I remember on the 10th of June 2014, on the issue of the recall of cabinet secretaries, Honorable Speaker, and how committees in this House would go about the procedure of recalling or impeaching a cabinet secretary, Honorable Speaker. You indeed, in that ruling, Honorable Speaker, there is a point where you said that you do not countenance that the House or committees of this House would go on a fishing expedition. Honorable Speaker, in many other rulings, you have ruled, in fact, that our committees should not be on fishing expeditions. We should not dwell committee business and the business of this House, Honorable Speaker, on matters that we pick from newspapers or electronic media, Honorable Speaker. And I say this with due respect, Honorable Speaker, because I've noticed in the last few weeks, in one instance, Honorable Speaker, a week or so ago, the Committee on Finance and National Planning was interrogating an issue, Honorable Speaker, that in my recollection, and you know I am very diligent in attending sessions of this House, had never in any way been referred to the committee, and I doubt whether the matter was in any way within the how a private to advance money to a Ugandan, and it is not even Equity Bank Kenya, it was Equity Bank Uganda. Honorable Speaker, it is a matter that was canvassed before broadcast media, and Honorable Speaker, I found it wanting, Honorable Speaker, we are now getting tempted to use our committees to advance our partisan party politics using committees of the House. Honorable Speaker, I'm raising this issue because again today, the second instant, the committee chaired by the Honorable Mwadhi, and I did see him, even at the risk, Honorable Speaker, of also alluding before broadcast media, and Honorable Speaker, I found it wanting, Honorable Speaker, that we are now getting tempted to use our committees to advance our partisan party politics using committees of the House. Honorable Speaker, I'm raising this issue because again today, the second instant, the committee chaired by the Honorable Mwadhi, and I did see him, even at the risk, Honorable Speaker, of also alluding, saying that they will be sitting today, meeting the Cabinet Secretary in charge of the national security or interior, national coordination, on the question of the withdrawal and scaling down of the security of the Deputy President, Honorable Speaker. To my recollection again, Honorable Speaker, this House was on recess. There was no question, there was no petition, there was no statement sought. And when I listened to the chair in the electronic media, Honorable Speaker, asserting that the Deputy President's people, and I don't know which people those are because all Kenyans are the Deputy President's people, raised these questions, and therefore the committee is looking into that matter. Honorable Speaker, aware that we had a special sitting today, you will recall this morning, Honorable Speaker, you had to ring the quorum bell for quorum to be present for business that we have been called on a special sitting to begin. Honorable Speaker, you can count the handful members of Parliament who are here this afternoon, Honorable Speaker, and from this morning. And aware that that committee is now sitting, Honorable Speaker, and I'm privileged to have perused through some of the documents that have been tabled before that committee, Honorable Speaker. Either the chair of that committee or certain members of that committee are using the committee either to advance other things other than those that they ought to be inquiring into, Honorable Speaker. I am aware, Honorable Speaker, I've just looked at the business before that committee. Honorable Speaker, there are 55 questions that have been referred to that committee. It's not yet clear when I checked at the table office this morning how many of those been responded to. They have 32 statements that we have sought, including my statement, Honorable Speaker. I think 2 of my statements that are touching on the lives and the security of Kenyans, Honorable Speaker. Some that touch on banditry issues in the counties of Samburu, Laikipia, Turkana, that members and the recent skirmishes that were there in Marsabit, Honorable Speaker. Out of the 32 statements sought, only 12 have been responded, Honorable Speaker. Therefore begs the question why this committee would be so overzealous, Honorable Speaker, to get into business that has not in any way been referred to them by the House or from the Chair, Honorable Speaker, and be overzealous. And Honorable Speaker, there are indications that indeed the Cabinet Secretary in charge of the Interior is the one who has orchestrated that meeting to be held this morning, with print and electronic media fully broadcasting the proceedings of that committee live. Honorable Speaker, when we talk about state capture and the executive capture of this legislature, Honorable Speaker, and that's one of the issues, Honorable Speaker, I would want you to guide us on. How do those other people outside there, how do we come to allow cabinet secretaries and functionaries of government, Honorable Speaker, to cause committees to sit for them to come and advance whatever issues they want to come and advance, and use our parliamentary processes, Honorable Speaker, either to cleanse or sanitize their actions, Honorable Speaker? To me, Honorable Speaker, this is going to the core of belittling the mandate of this House, Honorable Speaker. And also, Honorable Speaker, you know, playing games with the oversight role. And I'm not saying the committee should not inquire into anything. They have every right to inquire, Honorable Speaker. But we must not allow the committee to be used to cleanse, or in any way, Honorable Speaker, to use parliamentary privileges to disparage people who cannot defend themselves before that committee. I have seen of the documents tabled, Honorable Speaker, is information that has been tabled before that committee, listing all the properties, farms, businesses, kiosks owned by the Deputy President and how many officers are guarding those premises. How I wish, Honorable Speaker, we would have seen the same Cabinet Secretary indicate how many GSU officers are guarding his own house in Karen, how many are guarding his house in Nyamira, how many are guarding his farm in Kiserian, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, maybe you should also tell us how many are guarding me and you, Honorable Speaker, because we must not use the privileges of this House and committees of the House, Honorable Speaker, to advance our partisan politics, Honorable Speaker. We are all members before this House, Honorable Speaker, like I am raising today. But I must not use this floor, Honorable Speaker, to disparage even those that I believe not to use this House or committees of this House to sanitize and cleanse their deeds or misdeeds in government, Honorable Speaker. If you want to offer information on the Speaker, Honorable Speaker, I think you should be able to bring a petition or a motion before this House, a question or a request for a statement, and you'll be able to inquire on things relating to anyone. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
No, I remember. So that's not, you know, he rose on a point of order, and he wasn't seeking, he wasn't seeking your views. No, members, let me just, for avoidance of doubt, the Honorable Ishongwa decided to rely on standing order number 218. You know, Honorable Kioni, you cannot sit. Honorable Kioni, you cannot be sitting. The Honorable Odhiambo, I am on my feet. How long? For avoidance of doubt, that is actually being out of order, Honorable Kioni. Honorable Kioni, you cannot sit there and start shouting that you're on a point of order. Which point of order? Who gave you the leave to say you are on a point of order? You cannot. He has risen, he stood in his place, standing on number 218. Honorable Ishongwa, cited standing on number 218, but overlooked standing under number 216, which deals with the mandates of committees, departmental committees specifically. And more particularly, subsection 5 of standing number 216 states that the functions of a departmental committee shall be to A, investigate, inquire into, and report on all matters relating to the mandate, management, activities of the assigned ministries and departments. In doing this investigation, the committees can act, they are at liberty to act without seeking authority from the House. Suo moto. The next is, the committees also have a function to study the program and policy objectives of ministries and departments and the effectiveness of the implementation. Study and review all legislations referred to it. Study, assess, and analyze the relative success of the ministries and departments as measured by the results obtained as compared with their stated objectives. And more importantly also, investigate and inquire into all matters. This is important, all matters relating to the assigned ministries and departments as they may deem necessary and as may be referred to them by the House. But on their own, the committees are not limited. I think with regard to what the Honorable Ishungu has raised, rather than me going to wait to do a communication on this, because all committees have been doing, you go to the fourth schedule, you know the areas you cover, the activities of the various ministries and departments. You are at liberty. You don't have to come here to say that we want to go and find out whether people are doing irrigation. No. The Ministry of Water, whether it is doing irrigation in which part, that's your mandate. You don't have to come here all you need to do is to ask the clerk's office to facilitate you to go and find out who is being supplied with electricity, last mile connectivity, all such like things. You don't come to the House. It's just the clerk's office to facilitate a particular committee. And therefore, the only thing that may be valid is, are they going to report to the House their findings? Because if you undertake an investigation, you must therefore bring to the House a report. So the Committee on Administration and National Security, the Committee on Finance, they are put on notice that they must come and bring a report here of their investigations and inquiries. And if they want to travel to Uganda or to Kaksingri, the Honorable Millie Odhiambo can facilitate the Kaksingri visit. But let them, I think and if they want to go to see, if they want to see the farms, I can facilitate. Yes, the Honorable Ishungu will facilitate, and any other person. Yes. But I think the point I think the Honorable Ishungu was raising, more importantly, is please, committees, stick to your mandates. And when you do so, if you make inquiries like those ones, bring a report to the House. Let the House benefit from your inquiries and investigations, if at all, as long as they are well-founded. But also, of course, the committees should give us their schedule of activities. And I think the further point is the one on the various statements that have been requested by members. When you have those functionaries appearing before you, you ought then also to take advantage to place before them those questions and requests for statements which have been filed with them, so that they can respond also at that time. And invite the members who either ask the questions, because it can't just be one. But I think I would want to discourage committees from kowtowing to other forces outside of the House. You can only kowtow to the dictates of the House because you are a committee of the House. So that when people write to you, people should not write to you and express desire to appear before you. To do what? Because you never know what they are going to do, what it is that they may want to. You may need to interrogate why they want to appear before you. Is it to entertain you with stories, or what is it? But if you are genuine and you want to inquire into a matter, please go ahead and do it within your mandate. But also, please, let the House benefit from that investigation or inquiry through a report tabled before the House. So, Honorable Ishongwa, I think I would advise that you now raise the issue of the reports when the House resumes, so that we, and hopefully, because what we say here is on record, the chairs of those committees should be informed that the House will expect reports on their expeditions in those inquiries. I think there's no need for us to debate that. Yes. Yeah. It's not on the same matter, Honorable Nyikal.
Guidance on exactly what you say. Chair, I think you have given guidance as expected. Chair, one issue then comes out, that actually a member thinking is rising on a correct point of order actually comes out on a wrong point of order, that actually the committees have the right to do what these committees done. But in the process, the member makes statements that makes the committee sound. Even now we are not sure whether those committees went on the behest of somebody else. The allegations that we made. In respect to committees, Mr. Speaker, what do we do? Because those points have come out, the statements have come out, the committees have been made to look like they got somebody to invite them. I think that are also important points that we should take into consideration. How do we handle those that have come out? Or do we expunge all that of what Honorable Chungwa said from the answer?
On the day that the two chairs are in the House, they will report progress, if at all, or what it is, what are their findings, and then during that debate on the report, Honorable Nyikal, the issue you've raised will also be canvassed, because now let's not debate nothing. Adjourned until today at 2:30 p.m.